we are human beings with two eyes and two hands and 2 feet, and we tend to project this physiognomy of dualism onto ideas. And the truth is, there's not ever two options. It's an exponentially increasing amount of options and stories. And that level of complexity scares people. And I think that's why we want to create debates and ideas and stories that reflect and contrast each other, because it's a way of creating a stable value system. But we do not have a stable value system right now. And I think that's what's really scaring people.
The way in which she articulates the heroine's journey is that it invites everybody collectively together, saying, hey, we're in this project together. How do we bring our skills and gifts, viewpoints together to understand and to create, you know, the next phase of the journey, which is different from this sort of like pioneering, you know, monolithic kind of approach that we might ascribe to the hero's journey. And both of them exist, you know, at the same time. It's just, which one are we giving more weight to? And that's something that, if we don't have enough dialogue about it, as you said, there's a great quote from your Facebook post the other day. The test of a first-rate intelligence is the ability to hold two opposing ideas in mind at the same time and still retain the ability to function, right? So, but unless people know that these are the options, like there are different ways in which we can truly look at these things, and that we have to learn to see, how are we looking through things? You know, how does this inform for you? It seems like you've been actively cultivating the ability to look at things this way.
I do want to amend, which is, there's a simplification of the quote, which is, I amended that quote, which comes from F. Scott Fitzgerald's Crack Up, and said, that is an interesting quote, but in a culture where information and connectivity is reproduced and so much more quickly than individual expertise can be developed, perhaps intelligence is the ability to hold 1,000 different exponentially increasing viewpoints. And I think that I really love that you offered this more connective, less individually focused narrative through the viewpoint of Jean Houston, who I admittedly have not spent a huge amount of time with, but it's still grafted onto this cultural idea of masculine and feminine as being the only two modes of expression. And, you know, we are human beings with two eyes and two hands and 2 feet, and we tend to project this physiognomy of dualism onto ideas. And the truth is, there's not ever two options. It's an exponentially increasing amount of options and stories. And that level of complexity scares people. And I think that's why we want to create debates and ideas and stories that reflect and contrast each other, because it's a way of creating a stable value system. But we do not have a stable value system right now. And I think that's what's really scaring people. What I've been trying to focus on is, and I wrote an essay about this called, what is ecological storytelling? How can we begin to relax our focus on masculine, feminine, hieros gamos, you know, these two different, you know, women as being fetishistically conflated with nature and greening, even though women do harm too. And then conflating patriarchy with the hero's journey and patriarchy, and they are not the same thing. How can we look at like the story of inquiline communities, of like bromeliads and pitcher plants that make themselves into a home for other beings and then nourish themselves from the shit produced by the beings living inside of them? Like, what is that story telling us? What, you know, as opposed to the hero's journey? What is the story of lichen, where you have algae and fungi that are entering each other, becoming intimate strangers in each other's bodies to create something entirely new that then creates chemicals that couldn't be reproduced separately? So what I'm trying to do is look to the natural world rather than to the cultural world.